Oh, I look forward to this whenever the name appears on my schedule. Walter E. Williams, syndicated columnist, economist, of course, at George Mason University, is with us. And I always, I can't wait to get the conversation started. Hello, Walter. Good to talk to you again, sir.
Good afternoon.
My pleasure. All right, so you wrote a great piece, and it's just so eye-opening, and people really need to be exposed to this because it just speaks volumes. It was in Capitalism magazine, and that's where I saw it. And it says, it starts off by, there is no material poverty in the United States. And that is so true. So true.
That is absolutely right. There's no material poverty either intertemporally over time. That is, you can't compare today's poor with yesterday's poor, 1940, 1930, 1950, and then worldwide, poor people in the United States, they live better sometimes than middle class people in some other countries, and some of the facts I point out, it's a paper done by Dr. Robert Rector and Rachel Sheffield, and it's called "Understanding Poverty in the United States: Some Surprising Things About America's Poor." And they list them, and they have a whole bunch. I didn't put down everything, but it says I didn't put down everything in the column. But 80% of poor households have air conditioning. Nearly 3/4 have a car, and 31% of the poor, what the Census Department calls the poor, have 2 or more cars. 2/3 have cable TV. They half have computers. They large percentage, say 40%, I think they own their own houses. And then also people who are poor in the United States, who are called poor in the United States, they have more living space than middle-class people in Europe.
That is amazing.
And so there is no material poverty. Now, what I say in the column, what we have in our nation now is spiritual poverty, what we have is dependence, where people adopt pathological lifestyles, and they become dependent on government. They don't go out to look for work, and that's what we have in our country, but not material poverty.
No, well, as an aside, I digress for a second. It must have really piqued your interest when we started hearing that the fact that the CBO report, the fact that 2.5 million job hours or whatever, or the equivalent of that, will be lost because of Obamacare, because it'll disincentivize people from working. The left came out with, this is a great thing. People shouldn't have to work. They could stay home, they could go play with their grandkids. I mean, I think it was I don't know if I forget who it was who said, maybe it was Ann Coulter, I don't remember, that until that day last week, America, maybe it was Megyn Kelly, had always been about working. Working is good for you. Working makes you feel relevant. All the benefits of working and having a job. And now the Democrats are changing it that, oh, no, it's good not to work.
Well, and what's so reprehensible about this is that these people, from the president on down, they would not suggest the same thing for their children. They would not tell their children, oh, just get on food stamps, oh, get on welfare, have multiple children, et cetera, et cetera. They would never prescribe that kind of lifestyle for their children. And what it shows it shows contempt and a lack of respect for Americans who are at the bottom of the economic ladder.
Yeah, no, very, very important. And we're talking to Walter Williams here on the Steve Malzberg Show. WalterEWilliams.com?
Yes, WalterEWilliams.com.
Yeah, all these,
my website, and I have a lot of good stuff.
You have great stuff there. All these great articles and columns and more are there. Now, you point out in the piece about poverty and material poverty in the United States, about the poverty rate. Now, it might mean something, less severe than we're led to believe based on the rest of your column. But nonetheless, this is a very important statistic, and it's something that's not talked about for fear of being called. People be afraid they'll be called racist or bigots.
Whatever. Well, the Census Bureau, as I point out in the column, pegs the poverty rate among blacks at 35% and 13% among whites. And also I point out that the illegitimacy rate among blacks is 72%, and among whites is about 30%. But the statistic that nobody talks about is the poverty rate among married families, both black and white. And the poverty rate among black married families for the last several decades have been in single digits. Matter of fact, the poverty rate among black married households is 8%,
Yep.
and among whites it's almost
5%.
5%.
Yeah.
And so it seems like one of the solutions for poverty is to get married.
Yeah. No. You would think so.
And then also later on in the column, I point out that it's avoiding long-term poverty. It's not rocket science. And I give a prescription, and it's guaranteed that you will not have long-term poverty. 1, graduate from high school.
Yeah.
2, get married before you have children and stay married. 3, work at any kind of job, even one that starts out at the minimum wage. And then don't engage in criminal behavior. And it turns out, just for the Census Department puts the poverty rate for a married couple at I think something like let's see, $15,500 a year, and for a family of 4 at $23,000 a year. But it's no great shakes. But I'm pointing out that a married couple, both working, earning the minimum wage, would earn $30,000 a year. And that's above the poverty level.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, I point out that any adult who starts at the minimum wage doesn't stay there very long.
Yeah,
It always gets a higher wage.
Absolutely. Now, you see, the problem is, doctor, is that your solutions make just too much common sense, and they're too easy. And of course, they'd be viewed by the left as it's not the leftist agenda. They don't want this. They don't want the family. They want the breakdown of the family. They want government dependency. So whatever you're putting forth here is the antithesis of what they believe, and it's the right answer. Let me ask you this: Tom Perkins, who I'm sure you're very familiar with, was at the Commonwealth Club the other day, or maybe it was today, and I believe he's the same Tom Perkins who basically said that the rich are being demonized, and he compared it to how Hitler started demonizing the Jews in Nazi Germany. And by the way, based on the way they treated the AIG executives back when they took their bonuses after the bailout, with Barney Frank wanting their addresses put in the paper, I think he has a case. But today he said that the rich should get more votes because they pay such a lion's share of the taxes, and that people who don't who don't pay federal taxes shouldn't vote at all, shouldn't have a say.
Well, I wrote a column about this some years ago, and I was asking the readers, I say, look, if you have no financial stake in General Motors or Ford, should you be able to vote like the other shareholders, like the other people who have financial, they have a financial interest in the company? And so I was suggesting that every American gets one vote, and plus one additional vote for each $50,000 that he pays in taxes.
Wow!
So if you pay $200,000 in taxes, you get 4 votes. Now, by the way, the people could stop that by saying, well, let's make everybody pay the same tax. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. That would be a way around it. Absolutely. What do you make, finally, sir, of the push by Eric Holder yesterday? He made an announcement. He wants the states to immediately get about enacting laws that will grant voting rights to convicted felons who have served their time and paid their debt to society. Andy McCarthy, who I had on earlier, said that he sensed a tone of threatening in there. Not that he could unilaterally impose his will, but he could make states' lives miserable by lawsuits and other means if it's not done. Your thoughts on all that?
If there's a governor of a state and his legislature, they should have the courage to tell the Attorney General to go to hell. Because, we have the 9th and 10th Amendments to the United States Constitution that they're running roughshod on anyway, and the 9th and 10th Amendment says all powers that are not expressly delegated to the federal government belong to the people and the states. And so, and matter of fact, what's so very interesting about it is that the Attorney General will come out against sue states that follow the law. For example, the whole immigration policy. I mean, they'll sue states that want to enforce the federal law on immigration.
Yeah. No, absolutely. By the way, I can't wait for the first governor to do that.
Well, and hopefully it'll be maybe a governor like from Texas.
Yeah, there you go. That would be appropriate. Hey, Walter, always great to talk to you, Professor. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Walter E. Williams, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Yeah, do you think there's a governor out there, a state legislature out there that has the guts to answer back Attorney General Eric Holder for what he's demanding? This, of course, as Andy McCarthy relayed to us, he does not have the power to unilaterally do anything. The president doesn't have the power to go into the states and say that you have to have these people vote. But as Andy also said, he can make their lives miserable. He could make their lives miserable with endless lawsuits and whatnot. Is there a governor out there that will retort to Eric Holder, go to hell, verbally, so we could all hear it, so I could play the soundbite? I don't know, but that would be interesting, wouldn't it? All right, folks, we have some sound for you that you haven't heard yet. Joe Scarborough, not ruling out a run for the presidency. That's right. He was on with Hewitt yesterday, and he left open that possibility. So we will let you hear a little bit of what he had to say and some other goodies when we come back right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
The Steve Malzberg